What's going on, Summoners? Welcome back to another ProGuides video. I'm Kangas, and today we're talking about the history of mages, or otherwise sometimes known as APCs, in the bot lane, as well as the overall goal of a bot laner. If you love talk pieces and want to learn more about why certain picks reign supreme over others, make sure you sub to the channel, and let's get right into it. But before we can talk about AP carries in the bot lane, we've actually got to break down the role entirely. So let's start by asking ourselves, what is the purpose of an AD carry, or otherwise known as a bot laner? Is it to be your team's primary attack damage source? Or maybe it's your team's main way of taking objectives? Or maybe the AD carry is just a late game insurance and should farm all game? Regardless of which one of these you believe, AD carry is actually a proper combination of everything. The role itself may seem fairly simple. I mean, you just right-click and deal damage and then the enemy dies, but it isn't exactly that easy. On a surface level, sure, that really is all that AD carries do. They're just champions that deal physical damage with basic attacks and sometimes their spells. However, if we look a bit deeper, there's a lot more to the role that makes it complicated, but also extremely necessary in a lot of team compositions. But before we dive into that, I want to let you know you can also check out ProGuides.com if you want to chat with one of our coaches more deep about this topic. Now, of course, I'll cover what I can in this video, but sometimes it's just better to get it directly from the source, and we got Masters and Challenger level players that will go one-on-one with you either into your own VODs or just play games with you and then explain these kinds of topics as well. So if that's more your style, go check out the website. But back to this video, let's go over exactly what an AD carry is used for. While it's true that they tend to be the primary source of attack damage for a team, what does that actually mean? Well, to start off, let's take a look at what they're hitting and see what tanks can itemize. It's significantly easier to itemize armor rather than magic resist, which means that more often than not, champions will be stacking armor. Now, if we're talking about AD carries, why is this important? Well, this may suck for the marksman, but it actually helps out your AP carries quite a bit, as they will be able to deal a substantial amount of damage to squishies and tanks alike. But why do tanks build so much armor? Well, let's look at why a primary source of attack damage is so important for your team first, specifically a ranged one. In League of Legends, there's really only one primary goal, and it's to destroy the enemy nexus. Whether that's through wits, brute force, or simply outclassing the enemy, you tend to use objectives like Baron, Dragon, and turrets to help you reach this goal. Now, every champion can take a turret and help out at dragon fights, but not every champion does it as effectively nor as safely. When it comes to both of these, marksmen allow you to take them extremely fast, especially as the game goes on. Alongside that, if you don't have a ranged carry, it's nearly impossible to siege versus certain team compositions. Like, imagine that your team is all melee champions trying to take an inhibitor turret. The enemy team has a Malzahar and they're just going to clear the wave and then poke you out. This not only stalls the game out for longer, but it doesn't allow you to force your lead as quickly. And finally, most AD carries tend to have some of the strongest power spikes in the game. This means that if they farmed up and purchased their items, they were able to help push their team towards victory due to being extremely powerful. For some of them, their power is in early raw damage so they can stack early dragons and get free turret platings. Others, like Ezreal, are able to play safe early, so that when the mid game comes at around 2 items, they're able to single-handedly carry fights with their DPS. Or maybe a true hyper carry is more your style, and you like having a crit carry like Jinx or vel'koz that can absolutely wipe entire teams with only a few autos. Regardless of which marksman it is, they all have their power spikes that allow them to punish the enemy and help out their allies. At the end of the day, AD carry is meant for taking objectives, dealing physical damage, hitting turrets, and or scaling. So then you might be thinking, why are AP bot laners becoming so prevalent when they fail to do the majority of these? Well, before we get into that, we're going to ask our question of the day. We want to know who your personal favorite champion to play bot lane is. My personal favorite is Jhin, because he's an AD carry, but sometimes the way you play him kind of feels more like a mage. I just love champions that blend two different types of play styles, and Jhin's just so satisfying. But let me know your answers in the comments below. So let's take a look at just how AP bot laners became a thing in the first place. Sure, there was a wild time a few seasons ago where bot lane was filled with bruisers and mages, and there was even a point where Mordekaiser would go bot so they could have a pet dragon. But neither of these were necessarily the turning point. As soon as AD carries got buffed, they were always back into their lane with as much prevalence as ever. Now, a lot of you will be surprised to find out that the turning point for mages in the bot lane was when pros decided to play Syndra. For those of you who don't know, Syndra is the epitome of a mage that needs levels. Her passive literally gives her extra damage for having more levels, and that's often what kept mages from going bot lane in the first place. Mages don't need a ton of gold, they usually rely on experience and an item or two in order to deal high amounts of damage. Well, when Syndra was able to successfully be played in the bot lane, it completely revolutionized the meta. This single champion proved that mages could function with an experience disadvantage as long as they were able to maintain a steady influx of gold. This is when others began to wonder if they could place other mages bot lane too. Now, while Syndra is a powerful lane bully that offers extremely high amounts of burst, she's not really somebody who needs the support to protect her. So this made people wonder if it was even worth it to pick champions like Vladimir, Ziggs, or Xerath in the bot lane. With the support, these champions are able to safely scale until they have the damage to completely carry the game. This essentially broke AP bot laners into two different sections, to either scale and harass, or to dominate the lane with a high early damage threshold. Little did we know at the time that this would lead to Syndra, Ziggs, and Swain dominating the bot lane for multiple patches in a row now. Even after multiple nerfs, mages continue to dominate the bot lane even in the new season. So the question is, does this mean that marksmen are becoming more and more obsolete? Well, you gotta ask yourself why mages are seeing success in the bot lane to begin with. But before we answer that, I want to remind you to join our amazing community of people just like you that love talking about League of Legends through our Discord in the description down below. You can come hang out and be part of the community, join the ProGuides fam, or just hang out and make some new friends. Now, I want to go back to a previous statement that I said that might have you confused when I mentioned that AD carries are necessary for certain team compositions. Because the truth is, mages aren't able to completely replicate the jobs of a marksman bot lane, but they are able to compensate with a ton of other benefits instead. So let's start off by taking a look at a few of the popular AP carries to understand how and why they work for team comps. Starting us off, we'll look at Syndra. As we previously stated, she's a powerful burst mage that scales decently well. However, this means that she doesn't really have siege potential, and she obviously doesn't have the ability to deal physical damage. So why is she so powerful? Well, her strong laning phase and raw power make her a menace to deal with, especially when facing champions with extremely weak early games. Plus, it's also difficult for an AD carry to build magic resist since it'll stall out their damage for quite longer. Syndra was primarily used to offer unlimited lane priority for invades or dragons, while also being able to single-handedly shut down the enemy carry in the early game. And don't forget, she was still a powerful mid laner, which meant that there was a high flex potential. The enemy had to assume that she would either be played mid or bot lane, and then had to build a composition around that assumption. So then, if Syndra was great due to raw damage, why is Ziggs also doing so well, and not somebody like Xerath? Well, that's a great point, and it goes back to the benefits of an AD carry bot lane. See, while Ziggs may not offer the powerful early game that Syndra does, he is able to scale way harder. Alongside his amazing late game potential, he offers a fairly safe laning phase and has decent kill potential too. But that's not even what makes him so great. Ziggs is one of the few mages that has more siege potential than any marksman in the game. You heard that right. For those of you who don't know, Ziggs' passive empowers one of his basic attacks every few seconds. This damage scales significantly off of AP, can stack with Lich Bane, and has its cooldown reduced every time Ziggs uses an ability. This is why late into the game, Ziggs is able to auto turrets for a significant amount of damage, way more than any AD carry can do. Plus, don't forget about his W satchel charge. This ability literally allows him to execute turrets once they fall below 25% HP. Oh yeah, and did we mention that his wave clear makes it nearly impossible to siege against him? Between his amazing utility and high damage, Ziggs is able to easily overcome the struggles that other mages have in the bot lane. So that's 2 for 3. Now let's take a look at one of the last few oddballs that have made popular appearance in the bot lane. When it comes to Swain, he's been absolutely dominating bot lane for a long time now. Patch after patch, you'll see him at the top of the win rate list for bot laners, yet he doesn't have much wave clear, doesn't have amazing scaling, and yeah, he's got a nice early burst, but it's nothing crazy. So what makes him so powerful down there? Well, it has to do with him being an interesting mix of Syndra, Ziggs, and oddly enough, a tank. Swain is able to bully his enemies with quick trades, yet scales fairly well with both damage and health. Alongside this, the longer the game goes on, the bigger of a threat he becomes, merely because he's an absolute nuisance in teamfights with his ultimate. He's quite literally a walking zone control ability and can force enemies away with his ultimate and Zonias. Now, another champion that was once famously played in the bot lane is Cassiopeia, as this venomous snake is also an interesting pick in this role. Sure, she scales extremely hard like Ziggs, but she doesn't offer any type of poke or siege potential. However, she does have some of the best skirmish, anti-dive, and objective-taking kits in the game. With Cassiopeia on your team, she's not looking to auto turrets, she's looking to shred dragons and barons, while also making sure that the enemy can't get too close. While she doesn't see as much play anymore in the bot lane due to lack of early power, she's still quite a menace to deal with her extremely high DPS. The entire meta of bot lane mages has been shifting ever since Syndra introduced herself into the lane. Asking ourselves why these changes are important and how these champions are so powerful make it so that we can not only find better options, but also counter them. It's no coincidence that Ziggs is one of the best bot laners at the moment, whereas Cassiopeia and Xerath are seeing zero play. If we continue to break down and understand what makes these champions so great in their off-roll, then we can continue to push the meta to even further boundaries. I mean, who would have thought that something like Fasting Senna could ever become the meta build for an AD carry? With all these mages being introduced to the bot lane, it's always important to note that they have some pretty great support synergy too. This is especially true if your duo is going to be playing an engaged support. As long as you have CC readily available with a mage bot laner, they'll be able to deal safe damage and may even score a few kills. Just be sure that you're not a bit overzealous and insta-lock Lulu with Syndra, or you're going to be having a pretty rough time. Enchanters have a place and time, especially in the bot lane, but being with a mage isn't necessarily one of them. But anyway, that'll sum up our video for today. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Don't forget to join the ProGuides family at ProGuides.com, where we offer exclusive giveaways and classes that you won't catch anywhere else. If you liked the video, make sure that you like it, sub to the channel, but most importantly, best of luck on the Rift, everybody. Stay hydrated, and I'll see you in the next one.